As you all know, North Carolina recently passed a sweeping anti-gay law that would prevent transgender people from using the bathroom of the gender they identify as, and furthermore, it actually prohibited local municipalities from putting in anti-discrimination legislation for LGBT people. After a momentous amount of backlash from businesses, from the media, and from celebrities even, this was the collective response of North Carolina lawmakers.
I've made a huge mistake.
So Huffington Post explains more than 180 businesses have condemned it as discriminatory and called for a repeal. Bruce Springsteen canceled a concert in protest. Former basketball player Charles Barkley called for moving the 2017 NBA All-Star Game out of Charlotte, while PayPal decided against expanding operations to the city. On Friday, President Barack Obama called the new law wrong and said it should be overturned. So now the result is that they have gone into full damage control mode. So they have introduced HB 946, which is a bill that would overturn the law they just codified a couple of weeks ago. But the bad news is that even though this bill has been introduced, the likelihood that it'll actually get through is low, because the original bill passed with a large majority in both their House and Senate, and also their Governor McCrory, actually supports it. So it appears more likely that if the law goes down, it will be because of a lawsuit. Groups like the American Civil Liberties Union and Lambda Legal are challenging it in federal court, arguing that it is unconstitutional because it violates the equal protection and due process clauses of the 14th Amendment. Critics of the law are still pressuring McCrory and the legislature to reverse course. On Monday, a coalition of civil rights, faith, and business leaders delivered more than 150,000 signatures to the governor's office, urging a repeal of the law. Thousands of people are expected to rally outside the legislature. So even though it's the case that this will most likely not be repealed right away and that it'll just most likely be overturned, I still like the fact that these homophobic states, they can't just pass a law now and get away with it. There's substantial backlash. There's protests. There's petitions. There's people rallying around LGBT people now. And so if you're a state who plans on passing these homophobic laws, you got this to look forward to. So even though the law itself sets a bad precedent, well, the actual consequences that came to fruition actually are a good sign to me. It's an indication that we really are moving forward as a country. When you have everyone, the media, big business and whatnot, even though I rail against big business oftentimes, if they're coming together for this one issue, this is a win. This is a win for humanity. This is a win for society. So I don't know that this law will be repealed right away. The fact that it was even codified to begin with, it's honestly disgusting. But the thing to keep in mind is that we really are making progress. 10 years ago, you could pass an LGBT law that discriminates against people left and right. I mean, you could ban LGBT anti-discrimination clauses from even coming into law. So if a local municipality said, look, we want to codify this law that stops discrimination against gay people, well, that would be restricted and there'd be no repercussions for it. But now, in 2016, we've come a long way. You can no longer pass these brazenly homophobic and transphobic bills that violate equal protection under the law, because it obviously does. If you can't see that, then you're dim-witted. But you can't pass these bills with no consequences anymore. And that, honestly, it's heartwarming. So I'm glad that people are coming around. And when you take into account the fact that 63% of young Republicans are in support of gay rights now, we're headed in the right direction. So even though the bill itself is a sign of regression, we have to look at the outcome, the consequences, the waves of consequences that ensued after its passage, and look at it as a good sign, because this is something that, honestly, I'm really happy about. So kudos to everyone who's railing against it. Shout out to everyone who's protesting this, who's signing petitions, who's actually speaking out against this injustice, because we can't have this in a democracy. You shouldn't discriminate against someone because of their immutable characteristic. It's not right, it's unethical, and it's undemocratic. Any justice who doesn't see this as an outright violation of the due process and equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment, well, they should probably be disbarred and not be a judge anymore. But I think it's going to happen. I have faith that this will be struck down, because you can't get any more brazen about your hatred for gay people than this. So it's not going to last, and any state who tries this, it's not going to last for them either.